Good evening. Today is Monday, July 12th. Welcome to the Legislative Subcommittee. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. We're going to take them out of order. First, we're going to take a roll call.
Roll call of the members of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Councilor Keefe?
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky? Here. Here. Councilor Powers? Absent. Councilor Visconti? Is here. And Chairman Morbido?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
And Madam Clerk, we're going to take up item 21195, an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for dog parks. Councilor Serino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So basically, I filed this ordinance because, as I said at our last meeting, there are rules for the dog park that are stated clearly on the outside of the fence. However, after talking to the animal control officer, he was saying that he could not enforce what is only on signage and not in our city ordinance. So basically, the language that is contained in the ordinance is just bringing in line what is on the signage just to maintain order. I will say that I spoke with the owner of Big Daddy Doggy Daycare, who is one of the folks who are, who has been using the park. And if we could possibly, so he was saying he was going to come up here tonight, but I don't see him here. Long story short, if we could strike the language about the doggy daycares, because he says that when he's using the park, he does have a dog handler for every 2 dogs. So if that's the case and he's not breaking any rules, then that's wonderful. If that's not the case and he doesn't have 1 dog handler for every 2 dogs, then the ordinance would still kick in, and the animal control officer could still enforce the fact that he doesn't have a dog handler for each of the 2 dogs. So if we could just strike that language, aside from that, it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Madam Clerk, did you find this section? In the mean...
Mr. Chairman, through you to the clerk, the doggy daycare itself is located in, his office is located in Malden, but he lives right across the street from the dog park, and most of the dogs, he says that are his customers, are registered in Revere, and they are Revere dogs. He had an office, I think, in Revere beforehand, but...
Does he have a pile of dogs at his house? Does he keep a... Does he keep all those dogs at his house?
He does not keep the dogs at his house.
What section? Councilor Serino.
Councilor Serino, do you have the section?
I don't, Mr. Chairman. I didn't realize I was going to be first on the agenda, so let me...
In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll take up any opponents on this issue? Any opponents on this issue? Are you an opponent, Mr. Novoselsky, Councilor Novoselsky? Oh, okay. Any proponents for this subject matter? Any members on the subcommittee? Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as I said at the public hearing, I think there's a great regulation that we want to put in, but I think it's great for a citywide issue, okay? And I don't think that it should be directed just for Revere Dog Park, because I'm sure we're going to, the Pause and Play Dog Park up in West Revere, because we are going to have other dog parks coming up in the city, and I know we are, so I think this is a good generic ordinance, and if we, just do 6.01.170, and have it read Revere Dog Park, dog parks, and the next line on the whereas, just say the provisions of this section are intended to be rules and regulations for maintaining order at Revere Dog Parks, in period. And then the regulations all the way through would be perfect. So, my motion would be to change the title and adjust the wording to make this a citywide dog park rules and regulations ordinance.
Guys accept the amendment as is, along with...
Do any members object to making this a citywide ordinance versus just one specific park?
Mr. Chairman, actually, I'm in favor of it. The amendment.
Counselor Sereno?
Mr. Chairman, I would be okay with that as well.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, might I just add one quick thing? Because I did get some feedback about proposing an ordinance for dog parks. And I just want to say that I realize there are a lot of issues in our city, and this might seem very, not kind of at the top of the priorities of what we're dealing with. But residents in Ward 6 did bring this issue to my attention, and that is my job to fix issues that they bring. So just wanted to explain myself, even though I don't have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Janino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to speak in favor of this. I think this is a great motion that my colleague, Councilor Sereno, put through, and I can say, as his constituent and a Ward 6 resident, I was one of the people calling him at 6:30 in the morning when I was driving to the gym and saw 2 doggy daycare vans full of cars dropping off the dogs at the park. And you see 2 people watching a handful of dogs, which, I mean, I wouldn't take my little dog there if that were the circumstance. And I think when you have companies taking advantage of a community organization or a community park, it takes away the resource for our residents, and that's what it's there for. It's not meant for businesses. It's not meant for, small companies to use to make their lives easier. It's meant for our residents to have a place to go and to utilize. So it might sound trivial, but I think it's a great ordinance that my colleague put in, and I'm glad he did. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other members or anyone any council members have any comments? Counselor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I'm late. I apologize for...
I'll forgive you this one time.
Thank you. He's beautiful, this kid.
Next time, I'm going to have police detail
Gotta love him.
escort you out.
Gotta love him. I created a monster with this guy. No, all kidding aside, I certainly support that. Obviously, I'm the dog expert here on the city council. I think that's undisputed. But I wholeheartedly support my colleagues' endeavor here. That's something that's needed, and we do need some regulations. It's great to have these amenities, but when we get them, sometimes we don't think further down the road what's going to happen. But this is a case of that, and so I support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to take a roll call.
Roll call on an ordinance establishing rules and regulations relative to dog parks in the city of Revere. This is as amended. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Visconti. Yes. Council President Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Morabito.
Yes.
Yes, this ordinance has received a favorable recommendation as amended and will be forwarded to the full city council this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 21-128. Motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the city council requests that the state delegation to amend the open meeting law through legislation in which translation of multiple foreign languages are used in the notification process on all spectrums of medium used to comply with the current legislation. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quite frankly, this is a no-brainer. Obviously, if you go to any hospital, there are translators. And what we noticed over the past couple of months, in particular during the meters being put on Riviera Beach Boulevard, that there was no one there actually doing any type of interpretation. And so it is my hope and my suggestion that we could ask the state legislature that whenever there is a public event taking place in which, or a public meeting for that matter, in which there is discourse, that there are translators there. And as you know, Stephen, a family who is of Italian heritage, and in fact, I believe have immigrated from Italy. English isn't the first language for many of our citizens, and some of them don't have the greatest acquirement of English, but yet deserve the greatest amount of support and respect. And by providing a translator, as you do in a hospital, that should be the same when it comes to the issue of government. So that's my suggestion, and that's my wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Any subcommittee members? Any council members? Seeing and hearing that there's no objections, we'll take a roll call.
Roll call on the motion. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Voting yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo?
Yes,
Yes. And Chairman Morbido?
Yes.
Yes, this motion has received a favorable recommendation and will be forwarded to the full city council this evening.
Next item on the agenda is 21-172, an ordinance establishing the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This item is actually in joint committee with Councilor Keefe. I invited him up here. I don't know if he wants to come up here. Okay. No offense taken. Social distance. Is there anyone to speak on this item? Anyone from the mayor's office?
Mr. Chairman.
Are there any proponents who would like to speak on this matter? Any proponents? Please state your name, address.
Council Mark Silvestri, 501 Revere Beach Parkway. I'm a big proponent of this. I think affordable housing is something that we need to put into the planning of our city. You speak to several of our own employees here working for the city, and they're struggling to afford to live here. And I believe that we need to do something moving forward to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other opponents? Please come to the podium and state your name, address.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I definitely want affordable housing. The reason why I want it,
Name and address for the
I'm
record.
sorry, my name's Pam. I am from 211 Lantern Road in Revere.
What's your last name?
My last name is Ross.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross.
And I definitely do need, we definitely need housing because a lot of people can't afford, because the rent is constantly going up. And through the pandemic, a lot of people are still out of work. And a lot of people do want to stay in Revere, and I'm one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for your feedback. Any other proponents?
Counselor, just wanted to state also, as your co-chair for this meeting, there were a number of emails and letters received in support of this, legislation. And just to give some edification to the people out here, and of course, clearly, I think that there's a lot of support for this to be formed, and that's really what we're doing, is we're putting a trust organization together so that we can work on these projects throughout the city, and we can make sure that people are equally being represented, but also that there's someone on your side and championing for change in the city to make Revere, to keep Revere affordable, but to make Revere affordable. Because we talk about this all the time. Councilor Serino's a younger councilor, and I'm not going to take words out of your mouth, but he's looking at, how do I purchase a home right now? And I'd love to create more pathways for people to be able to purchase homes in the city that they grew up in, to the schools that they went to, the places they work, teachers. My daughter wants to be a teacher, and she's going to go to college next year, and hopefully in 4 to 5, 6 years she comes out, and hopefully she wants to come back and be a teacher in Revere. I don't know that she'd be able to afford a house on a teacher's salary in 6 years, and that's the problem that a lot of younger residents are facing. And then, of course, rising rents and understanding that we live close to Boston, and there's a housing boom, and people want to live close to where they work. So the market rate has gone up significantly, and We need to make sure that we're able to keep this organization that helps keep checks and balances. We're able to find and receive funds so that we can help support people with down payment assistance, rental assistance, and make sure that we can, keep Revere a working-class community like it always has been, and like we want to keep the fabric of our community intact. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of people in support. I don't think there's much really negative to say, and if you read through the ordinance, and I hope that everyone's had a chance to read through it, it's all positive. It'll create a board of trustees with appointments, and those people are going to be tasked with doing a lot in the city over the next few years. So I'm excited for it. I think it's long overdue, and I hope that we can establish this, and we can set some real goals for the future of Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any opponents of this motion? Anyone against it? No. Okay, now I'm going to hear from committee members. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. This is clearly needed. This was an issue that I've brought up time when Nick Kattenhauser was working for the city of Revere over in Inspectional Services, talking about Overlook Ridge and trying to get affordable housing up there when Tom Ambrosino was the mayor. And then when HYM came here and when they were doing their meetings, one of the things that I wanted was very much what they did in Boston and in Cambridge was 15% of the properties that are being built should be housing, affordable housing. We should have inclusionary zoning. More importantly, this trust fund will help in a sense of one aspect of affordable housing, but the other issue has to be affordable rentals. This is a big issue. We have many properties that are being built in this community. And under 100 units, there's really not much that can be done, but when you have a company that's putting in 100, 200, 300, and in some cases 1,000, asking for 15% of those houses to be affordable is not a heavy lift. So this is a great start. It's a great place to start, but there's more to be done. Linkage fees, obviously inclusionary zoning, and then more importantly, try to emulate some of the ordinances that they have in Boston and in Cambridge relative to affordable housing, because we have people here that need that help here. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, if I can just take the helm for a second as well.
It's Mr. Chairman.
Council Morbido,
It's Mr.
Chairman Morbido,
Chairman.
sorry. Getting loose here tonight. There are a few more people that I know wish to speak. Just to clarify for the record, this isn't a public hearing. Well, it's always a public hearing, but this isn't proponent-opponent side. This has already gone in front of the city council. This is being discussed tonight in subcommittee, the process of which we do our city business. And then today, we could potentially vote on this favorably or unfavorably to bring it back up to the full city council. So this is where we discuss maybe potentially making any amendments. I'm not necessarily sure anyone has any, but I just wanted to make sure you knew what the process was. But if there are people that wanted to speak on this ordinance or this public housing trust, affordable housing trust fund, come on up to the mic and name and address for the record and let us know what you think. Okay?
So my name is Valentina Moreno. Oh, a little bit, yeah, I'm taller. Right. My name is Valentina.
And your address for the record?
Yes, it's 370 Ocean Ave, Revere. So many of you know that I'm the Housing Stability Officer for the city. I've been working with housing assistance for over a year now, officially. And since I started working with housing assistance, right away had to learn what the definition of affordable housing is. I didn't know what it was. And then I learned that it should be that people that have affordable housing is 30% of their income. And that is not normal in Massachusetts. I don't know many people that pay 30% of their income for housing. That's a problem not only in Massachusetts, but around the country. And the effects of the lack of affordable housing is in people's health. Without housing, it's affecting people's education, their ability to get to work, their own community. It's tearing people's communities apart, and It's affecting in all the determinants of health in every person that I've met. I can tell you about so many cases that that I keep hearing because I keep calling people, receiving calls for the need of affordable housing because it's tearing people's life apart. People have to move from Revere. Well, I'm just gonna leave it that we need it. It's urgent. It's affecting people in all aspects. And me and many people here behind me stand for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to keep some balances, to keep a balance, so Revere can have more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more proponents? State your name and address for the record.
David DiMattia, 226 Cooler Street, Revere, lifelong resident, veteran. I lived down Shirley Avenue.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Steve. I lived down Shirley Avenue for 8 years. When I got out of the Navy until about 2003, paid a lot of rent down there at 45, and you're at the whim of the landlord. So I'm in housing now. I've been there since 2004, and I have coffee with Pam. She spoke, and I'm advocating, rental assistance for people that just, can't afford to live in the city or are on the edge of maybe, struggling. So I'm 100% behind this, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jose Guzman. I'm located at 157 Shirley Avenue, here in Revere. I used to study up here at Garfield Middle School till middle school. I just want to have a few inputs of what's going on with this. I did apply for, I believe it's called the RAF program, while this pandemic was going on. And I had a few people come up to me that were kind of confused on how these programs worked. And I understand that there was a lot of stuff that you had to fill out. And apart from that, I seen what you guys are, what we're trying to do here for our community. But I feel like this is not a big issue, but it's between having, how do I say this? Between having the infrastructure of Revere a little bit more upgraded, if you know what I mean. Why? Because in the last 2 months, I've been seeing houses catch on fire, and we had one that recently burned one house, and the fire caught on to some other houses around the area here at Hyde Street. And I believe that the infrastructure of Revere needs a little bit more attention if we're really going to consider bumping these prices up on rents, leasing, things like that.
Thank you for your input, but we have to stick to the matter on hand, just the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Of course, I understand that. At the same time, I feel like there should be a little bit more of a plan in place, not just to have just the people that tend, that rent, but also the landlords that are supplying these houses. We should definitely have an agreement with them in mind too. I am here to speak on behalf of the Latin and Central American community that we have here, Central American Americans. I definitely see a lot of issues revolving around, one is the infrastructure of, electrical stuff, things like that. We even had a little issue on Shirley Avenue where.
I'm just gonna, I respect that you're up here and you're giving your feedback, but as a chairman, I have to make sure that we don't go off topic.
Okay.
We have to stick to the subject matter.
I believe, yeah.
Because there are other people who would like to speak on this subject matter. A lot of people got out of work or arranged their schedules so they could be here. So
I understand.
We appreciate your feedback. Is there anything else you'd like to say pertaining to this subject matter, just the Housing Trust Fund? Are you an opponent or proponent?
Well, I can tell you that there's just certain things that definitely should be a little bit more open to people that are in need, as we've seen that we have people that want to stay here in Revere. And like I said, a lot of infrastructure is not doing good because we have houses like this that now we lost 4 or 5 family homes, and now we're gonna go with this infrastructure plan, and, I mean, not infrastructure plan, the affordable housing thing. So we gotta make sure that the houses that we already have here
Correct.
are
As I
are doing
said,
good.
that's a different subject matter. Do you have anything else to say? Because I'm going to,
Not at the moment.
yeah, but if you want to offline, if you want to connect, we can talk about that more.
Sure, no problem.
Thank
I'll
you.
circle back to that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments? If not, we're going to open it up to committee members. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Manuel Carrero. I live on 17 Waverly Avenue. This is something that's really personal to me, as I was also someone who needed rental assistance. I feel that especially after last year, affordable housing has always been something that has been on our radar and an issue to the city, but after last year has been overinflated. So I'm someone that is a proponent for this trust fund and something that I feel is very important to the city.
Thank you for your input. Now we're going to go to council members. Councilor Ira Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to see everybody here, and it's nice, that we have a proposal in front of us that is going to help our people, folks in Revere. Our affordable housing stock is very low, almost zero, other than the Revere Housing Authority, which handles right now probably 100%, other than a few units from the neighborhood developers out of Chelsea that have some property in Revere. The stock is very low. And I just want everybody to realize what's happening with this ordinance. It's great, I'm for it 1,000%. But what we're creating here, believe it or not, is another housing authority that is run by the city rather than a quasi-organization, as in the Revere Housing Authority. They're still going to have to buy properties that are in the city. Now, when they do buy the properties, they're going to bring up the issues of coding, make sure the housing is up to date before they rent it out to anybody. And I'm just concerned about the criteria that this committee, which is a great committee, and they have a great choice of people that they're going to choose from, is how they're going to, what criteria they're going to use to approve the applicants for the housing assistance. And our first-time homeowners, homeowner buyers are involved in this thing. And it's a very, very complicated thing. So, I hope everybody realizes that not every single person that applies for housing or housing assistance is going to be approved by this committee. So just, keep your mind stable and be realistic. And of course, everybody's going to be applying for it. We just had 571 Revere Street. It has 51 units. They had 1,250 applicants, and they could only give out 51 apartments. So that just shows how many people need it and how many units are not available to people. It's going to take time for all this to happen. We still have to approve the people coming onto the committee, and then we know where some of the money is coming from. As far as our free cash is concerned, we're allowing a certain percentage to go into this trust fund on an annual basis. So this has to be built up to millions and millions of dollars. So it's not going to be an easy show, but, I'm for it, I'm willing to go for it and make a move to make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambudo.
That's council president to you, sir.
Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you. I needed to get back at you. All kidding aside, I just wanted to mention, at the beginning, you asked for people from the administration to get up and speak. And in defense of the administration, the veterans agent got up and spoke, but the administration put this forward and has been very vocal about their support for this. I just wanted everybody to know that
And they
might
did a
not know
great
that.
public presentation as well.
They did a great public presentation. So just to remind everybody, the administration is fully behind this, and that's all I really wanted to add to your committee, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I have some questions in regards to the ordinance itself, and I wasn't sure if there was anybody here from the administration that can answer those questions. Is that, for example,
Do you have a quick question?
Yeah, for example, is free cash the only way that this this account is going to get funded. You know, I know there is a board of 9 people, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not sure how will the decision-making take place. Is it majority rule? You know, any decisions being made in this, with this ordinance and in this, the people that are involved in this fund? I don't have that in here, and I was wondering if that information is going to be provided. Above and beyond, I know there are some selected people here that they want on here, and, you know, I would actually like to see a real estate attorney on as one of the members as well. So not sure if any amendments were going to be made to this. So, you know, being in the mortgage business for 30 years and seeing how the housing boom has increased and Revere's market has gone crazy, it's evident that we need this, and, you know, the city is all for it. But I would just like to know some of those questions, if some of those questions can be answered. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, through you to answer to some of Councilor Visconti's questions. So I believe when this is to create the actual trust, and then the trust would then vote on their specific rules of order, typically voting around Robert's rules, but that would be, I would believe that would be established once the trust, and this is really establishing the trust. It does give a number of the descriptions on the people, like they want to have a person that's involved in real estate finances, which I think is obviously someone like yourself should probably appreciate. And then as far as funding, yes, absolutely. The trust will be able to accept gifts, land donations, as well as down the road, like Councilor Rotundo had mentioned, having the trust will be able to suggest to the city council and to the city itself ways to adopt different funding options, whether it's linkage fees, whether it's direct payments, whether it's you name it. So that's where this body will be able to really focus solely on affordable housing in our community.
Also, just to add to that, the trust fund committee, the board, will be appointed by the mayor but approved through the city council
Correct.
as well.
So it does spell some of that out. I don't know if it's supermajority or a majority, but I believe in everything outside of a zoning change, it would be simple majority. But Madam Clerk, I'm not sure if you know if all of our boards follow that same order of voting approval, but I'm fairly certain they do. Right, so every board in our city does follow simple majority.
It also states in here that all board members reflect the geographical and ethnic mix as well as working interest in the city. So, any other questions? Okay. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to throw out a suggestion out there. First of all, I'm fully in favor of a board that would be designed to make a more affordable housing available to the people in the city. Number one. Number two, I think that the monies, a lot of monies could be derived from mitigation money from developers that want to put up, a building, well, maybe you need the approval of a board or something, and you should look at donating some money to the committee so that, you know, that'd give them a little start. And I think also the buildings that are going up, and we're building enough of them throughout the city, we should be looking at affordable housing and a certain percentage of these units for people that need affordable housing, and not just $2,800, $3,000 a month. There are people that need that housing that can't afford that money. So I hope we'll all take this into consideration when this comes down the road. Thank you.
I agree, Councilor Powers. The struggle is real. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I'd like to offer an amendment to this particular ordinance. It's 2.90.01, 2, adding F, that any new development of housing with 100 units or more must provide 15% of all units to be affordable per state and federal guidelines. That can be either rental, after affordable. So on section 2.90.01, there is 2E, and then after 2E is 2, I would add F.
Councilor Morbido. So this is through you to Councilor Rotundo, or I don't know if we're kind of both running this, I guess through me to
Yeah,
Councilor
I
Rotundo.
guess, whatever.
Is this under Board of Trustees established appointment term filling of vacancies? 2.90.010?
So whenever you make an amendment within any ordinance, you can pretty much put it anywhere.
Right, it just,
Do
so,
you
looking
feel
to
like it should
add
go
a
someplace
section.
else?
yeah, I guess that's what I would
Because there
suggest.
are other things that I'd like to amend, because I'd like this to stay in committee. Some of the issues that were brought up by Councilor Visconti regarding the legalities and other issues of the actual committee need to be looked at too. The framework of that committee needs to be looked at. More importantly, there's a plethora. If you look at the ordinances in Cambridge and Boston and Somerville, I mean,
Right.
there's a whole set of identifiable issues that are not in this particular trust fund, that this is one of the issues that I think is highly important. We're going to be having HYM build. At one point, it was 3,000 units. Now it's less because of, obviously, the commercial units, and they're going to be transferring money into a trust fund. But then what about other issues relative to that? What about if someone decides to build down by where the Marsdens are, 200 units? Does that mean that those 200 units go on market rate, and these poor people that are sitting in front of us asking us for affordable housing take it on the chin? I think we need to put something in now. Once
That's
it's
a
in-
zoning issue. We're
Yeah,
just
no,
voting
but
on
once
it.
it's in writing, once it's added, it then sets the clock forward, not backwards, and that's the point of this. We can change where it goes later on, but I just want to add it on now. If you want to put it someplace else, so be it. I'm more than happy to take exception where to
I
put it.
think we should, if you could put forth a motion and have it go to zoning, I think the most important thing is to get this passed, help the people. The most important part about this
Doesn't change
process-
anything. All it does is it adds this function.
It's just changing the whole function of, it's a zoning matter, it's not legislative affairs. You're adding zoning to this, and I'm not about to add that section. Yeah, so we would need a planning board hearing and another council meeting. But in
Okay.
addition.
I'll
what-
accept that. Thank you.
So I just want to let you know, part of spending the money, it's going to be a public process. The mayor and his team said, so the residents of our city will have input on how this money can be spent. Obviously, there's rules and regulations of how you can spend the trust funds for affordable housing, but there'll be guidelines that public input will be giving. So each and every one of you will be able to give your feedback, which is great. That's all you ask for when you pass ordinances, that the people of that city can have a say and determine where the money goes. So is there any other members who would like to speak? If not, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, just last piece, just to say it again, I think that's a great, what you're saying, Councilor Rotundo, I would agree with 1,000%. I think that today is really establishing the framework of the group and the trust fund, and then that group, with input from people like yourself, or Councilor Morbido, or the council president, would be able to help shape the actual zoning changes that should come into play with thereafter. But I think they're all great suggestions. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Anyone? Roll call? Madam Clerk?
Roll call in an ordinance amending, I'm sorry, roll call in an ordinance establishing the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is a joint committee of the Zoning Subcommittee and Legislative Affairs. Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Sereno? Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Morabito?
Yes.
Yes, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has received a favorable recommendation
Thank
and
you.
will be forwarded to the full city council this evening.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who took the time, whether you were for it or against it. Your voice does matter to all of us. So whenever you feel passionate about something, call your counselor, call your school committee person. We're here to listen, and we're really here for you. So thank you, and thank you for all your efforts. This meeting is adjourned.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Appointment Subcommittee meeting of July 12, 2021. We have a few items on the order, and I would like your full attention because everyone deserves the attention that they deserve. The first, we have 21-107, is the reappointment of Tufts Construction as a licensed drain layer. Is there any member from Tufts? How do you do, sir? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record after you hit the button.
Peter Tufts, 100 Tremont Street, Everett, Mass.
Okay? And this is a reappointment.
Yes.
Any members of the subcommittee wishing to speak? Councilor Rotundo.
Well, it started way back in grammar school. Peter used to beat me up, but he's been an excellent provider for the...
Can you do something? Can you continue what you did as a kid and go ahead? We'll take a 5-minute reset.
Shut the cameras off.
No.
Yeah, because we all wanted to do that. So now we found something.
He's approved.
Any other members of the... Any other council? You didn't even have to...
First time they're in it, you know.
As soon as he spoke, you didn't have to say a word.
Peter, you got the unanimous vote right there.
Mr. Tuff, you've got the qualifications, and we know you started in the right direction and the type of people you know who to associate with. And if those people don't agree, then you know what to do also. But anyway, in a serious note, everybody for this appointment? All in favor, all opposed? We will vote you out favorably by the committee of the whole this evening. There's no need for you to stay in attendance, and we appreciate your appearance.
Thank you all.
Do a good job for our community.
That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Next is 21-212, appointment of J.R. Vinegro as a licensed drain layer. Is anyone from the, again, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Barry King, J.R. Vinagro Corp., 2208 Plainfield Pike, Johnston, Rhode Island.
And this is a new appointment.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Are you doing work currently in Revere?
We have not done any, we are in the bidding phase right now.
You're in the bidding phase. Any members of the subcommittee wishing to speak? Councilor Keefe.
Councilor Guanasso, Chairman Guanasso, Mr. King told me just a little while ago he worked with White for a number of years, which is obviously a very reputable firm. But he also let me know that many members on these appointments don't even show up. He just drove from the Cape on his vacation with his family to come to our appointments subcommittee meeting tonight to appear in person. So that in itself shows me that he's responsible and cares enough to drive the 3.5-hour round trip. So we really appreciate that and showing up tonight. He'll have my support.
Well, I think that's...
Thank you.
You know, this chair goes strongly on that. Appearance is a big thing. You know, all we're asking is come before us, say a few things, and meet some of our great councilors. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Keefe, I didn't know that, and that really speaks volumes to your character, and I can't imagine what it does to the quality of your work. So I hope that you get those bids that you're going out for, and I'll support you this evening.
Yeah, we'll be rooting for you to get some work here.
Thank you.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, is there any work right now that you're contemplating on doing if approved by this committee?
So we're working on the 565 Squire Road, the old Showcase Theater. It went out to bid. We were working closely with one contractor. We found out late last week that they did not, in fact, get the contract, and the awarding contractor is somebody that we are doing a job for at Cape Cod Community College. So we're hopeful that it'll still work in our favor.
Thank you very much.
Any other members? Councilor Rotundo.
Clearly, this gentleman fits the bill. Give him every opportunity. I would support his appointment in committee and outside of committee. I hope you can make it back to your family in Cape Cod if they're still there. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. I appreciate you coming up here. I bid you well.
Thank you very much.
Did you beat him up too as a kid?
I did not.
All right, that's a good. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so ordered. We will vote this out favorably this evening, Committee of the Whole. There's no need for you to stay in attendance, and we certainly appreciate your being here because that means a lot to us. So now we place a name with a face, and we have identity. Congratulations, do a good job for our city.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Next is 21-213, reappointment of Earthwork Industries as a licensed drain layer. Is anyone from Earthwork here? Anyone from Earthwork?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Rotundo.
this is exactly what Councilor Keefe and you just brought up 5 minutes ago. And if Revere TV could take a look at that mic, I'd appreciate it for 2 seconds. The mic is on, but the person is not here. If they want to work in our city, they shouldn't waste our time. And that's a problem.
Well, sir, that's exactly what my thoughts are. This is the position of the chair, as if you've paid attention to the previous subcommittee meetings of the appointments. I hold steadfast that I think that the least thing they do, someone's applying for a position in the community, the least they can do is come to that podium and tell us a little bit about themselves so that we can introduce them to the community and also introduce most of them to ourselves because we don't know who they are. So again, Madam Clerk, if this person was invited at the last appointment subcommittee meeting and did not appear, I would ask that this name be dropped from the list. Next is Commonwealth Construction as a licensed drain layer. Is anyone from Commonwealth here? Again, state your name and address for the record, please.
Paul Camilli, Commonwealth Construction, 10 Long Island Park, Woburn.
And this is a reappointment, Paul?
No, it's a new appointment,
A
sir.
new appointment. So you've never done work in the city?
I've done before.
Okay, and now, do you have any ongoing projects going within the
We have
community?
a project going to be going on Broadway to school for Extenet Systems.
Okay,
So we're doing all the excavation work.
terrific.
The plans are in engineering,
Okay,
and we're just waiting to get approved.
okay. Any questions from the subcommittee? Members of the subcommittee? Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you for showing up. It looks like you just got off the job.
I apologize.
Nah, don't worry about it. See, this is, you know,
Paul,
we appreciate that.
did you beat him up too as a kid?
I
So we're,
wish I didn't have to dress like this.
we're really thankful that you are here. We're thankful that your appearance means something to us, and it means something to the folks at home and these people in the audience who want an identity to an individual that we're confirming. And so we thank you for your appearance. We vote
Chairman?
you all favorable this evening, and there's no need to stay in
Mr.
attendance.
Chairman?
The next few days, we will be, we'll send paperwork to the clerk, and she will be contacting you. Councilor Nosowski.
Just before we close this out, you know, I always have a habit of looking at insurances, and I'm looking at your insurance sheet, and a lot of your insurances end in July. So I hope you can bring your insurances up to date on.
My
so that's
secretary,
something-
she's on, they're all on top of that.
Okay, please do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you again for
Thank
your
you for having
service
me.
for our community. Do a good job, and we know things are going to go well for our city.
I will.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you for your appearance. Next, we have a couple of appointments before the Conservation Commission. Prior to me asking these individuals to come forward, what's going on with the Conservation Commission, as so many people in the community have asked me and they've asked members of the city council? We've had, in the past couple of weeks and months, several members of this commission resign. Never happened. This is my 34th year as a public servant, serving in capacity as a city councilor. And never had so many resignations from one committee representing the people of Revere. So that's our obligation, and I think our oversight responsibility from this group is that we need to get these questions answered so that the public will have an awareness as to what's taking place in our city. Why are these members resigning? What's the reason behind this? Can we help with something? For this just all of a sudden, as soon as I'm done, Councilor, you're going to have the floor. We need to do something. We need to respond to people's responses in intelligent fashion. We need to know what's taking place in our city. And so, before we are, and that has no reflection on the two individuals that will be reporting out this evening. And by the way, they've asked that the city clerk do it by virtual, and so they're not here in attendance. I gave permission for that to happen, but that's not a good way to start the process, because the most important thing for our community is for people to know who the people are in place who represent them. And so I don't know these individuals at all, and so initially it was going to be done by phone, and then we'd never have a name with the position. We'd never have an identity there. So Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've talked to a couple of the former Conservation Committee members, and it was noted to me that they're not disgusted, but just, they don't have any real say in the matter of conservation land. What's happening is they'll get something in front of them, and they'll go down to the site to see it, and the production's already started. So they're getting fed up with the process, and they don't want to be there anymore because the process is not working. So this is what I'm hearing, and I think it's my obligation as a former president of the Friends of Belle Isle, Marsh, to say this out loud instead of keeping it to myself and just not saying it. So this is the process of what's been happening. I don't know if that's happening on all the sites, but they've related it to me that they've got that in front of them, they've gone to visit the sites, and the process has already began. So,
Well, this is why, Council, this is exactly why. On my drive up to the council this evening, I was thinking about, should I say something about this? Is this the time to say it? Well, what should I do? Keep it a secret? You people want to know. People at home want to know. You know, and the councilors want to know. None of us know. And so I think we need to have a meeting with the mayor, and we need to have that meeting as soon as possible. We need to know what's going on in our city and why is it going on? And why are these people who we thought so highly of a few months ago, one member who resigned was on the Conservation Commission for years. And this guy worked hard for our city. Bear in mind, there's no salary involved. This is good, hard-working people who live and reside in our community that work hard for each and every one of us to make sure our conservation laws are upheld. It's important. It's quite important in our cities, especially when we have so much of it around us. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been to several site reviews with the Conservation Commissioners. I'm a little concerned right now because I don't know how many members we have on the board, who the chairperson is.
Well, that's why we're having this emergency meeting with them tonight, because they don't have enough for a meeting.
As a matter of fact, I was down there today and spent an hour down there with some of the residents in Oak Island, and they have some concerns about a particular permit that was issued for 8,000 square feet. And I was there, and I know what went on, okay? I saw the property. It has been cleared of a lot of debris, which was a positive thing. And to my understanding, they brought in 2 trucks of fill to grade it out and fill in some areas that needed to be leveled off. So I'd like to know how many commissioners we have now that are on the board, and I'd like to get more information on the 2 appointees.
Well,
that
before we
has been
conclude the
recommended.
meeting, I'm going to address that with the city clerk and the members if they allow me to, at the conclusion, after we appoint these new people, and ask for a meeting with the mayor so that each and every one of us, and more importantly, the community knows what's going on.
I have no idea now if we have a quorum
We have
for a
2
meeting.
major projects that's facing the Conservation Commission, the Riverside and Suffolk Downs site. These
And
are
Oak
major
Island, too,
projects,
right now.
And they need attention of people that have knowledge on conservation law. So those are very important impacts on our community. Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we're talking about the Concom, but if we could add the ZBA to that as well, because a couple of weeks ago, there was a ZBA meeting, and there were some questions if they were going to be able to reach a quorum, because I believe there's either a vacancy or 2, because somebody has resigned, or there are 2 vacancies on the ZBA right now as well. And that was a concern. They had a public meeting advertised, and were they going to be able to reach a quorum for it? So if we could
Okay.
add the ZBA with that.
Thank
I
you.
would appreciate it.
What
Thank
we'll do now is we're going to ask the two new appointees to be present and
Mr. President,
Convey it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say one thing, too?
make it quick because,
Please,
you know,
I will.
indulge upon the committee of the whole.
I really
Senate.
do think if we're going to do conservation land, a committee for conservation land, we should have a lawyer that knows, the laws of conservation.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get the group
All
together.
right, thank you.
But
Mr.
I'm sure
Chairman?
that the mayor is probably watching, and I'm sure he's understanding, and I'm sure he's as concerned about it as we are. And he's probably happy that this has been brought out so people can have an awareness, because the hum in the whole city is, a lot of towns have, people talking, and everybody's giving false truths around. We want to know what's going on.
Mr. Chairman.
So we have two appointments, Counselor, can we just proceed with the appointment subcommittee, and then we go from there? The next is 21-133, is the appointment of Zachary Visconti to the Conservation Commission. And Zachary is going to join us via electronically. Zachary, welcome. Please state your name and address for the record, please, Zachary.
Zachary Visconti, 123 Augustus Street in Revere, Mass.
Zachary, before we proceed, what was the reason you couldn't be in attendance this evening?
Right now, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. There's this camp called Camp Jabberwocky on Martha's Vineyard. It's a camp for people with cerebral palsy. And so I am a counselor there. I'm a caretaker. And so that's for the whole month of July. And so I unfortunately I spoke with JD over the phone during my interview in June. So unfortunately for July, that was my kind of.
Okay, that's enough. That's
well,
fine.
keeping me.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, is there any members of the appointment subcommittee wishing to have any conversation with Zachary, our new appointee? Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank him for making the effort to be here. It sounds like he had an extenuating circumstance, and rather than saying, no, I can't be there, he made an effort to work with you to make sure that he was here tonight. So I think that shows, his character, and I think that I look forward to voting for him. Thank you.
Any other members of the appointment subcommittee? Zachary, I have a question, if you would. What is your background in conservation?
So right now, so in regards to animals, I'm a volunteer at the Stone Zoo. I currently am speaking about just the species survival plans of some of the animals there, specifically the Mexican gray wolf. In addition to that, I've been working at wildlife rehabs, and I'm currently working at a veterinary clinic. And so this, according to the committee, will be admittedly one of my first experiences hands-on with conservation. However, I'm very excited to get involved and just see how the process works and
Okay,
kind of
thank you.
give some ideas.
Any other members of the city council wishing to talk to Zachary? Zachary, we thank you for your appearance by means of electronically, and we look forward to your service to our community. As you probably heard, there's a little bit of a problem going on in conservation in terms of membership and keeping people on board, and we're going to come to the conclusion. So what's going on there? We're going to find out why are these people so unhappy that they're resigning, because initially they were all enthused to take these positions, and all of a sudden something happened that turned this whole picture. So we know some of it has been told to us this evening by one councilor, Councilor McKenna, but we need to sit with the mayor and collectively come up with something and find out, so we can report back to each and every one of you what's taking place in our city. Motion on the floor to approve Zachary Visconti. All in favor, all opposed? Zachary, we will vote you out favorably this evening. There's no need for you to stay electronically involved. We will vote you out favorably, and we look forward to your appointment, and your confirmation has been approved. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your effort to work for our community. Next is 21-234, appointment of Natalie Pardo to the Conservation Commission. Natalie available?
Here. Hello. This is Natalie Pardo.
Hi, Natalie, how are you?
Great, thank you.
And the reason that you couldn't be physically present in the council chamber this evening is what?
Yes, so unfortunately, it was a little short notice for me, and I'm out of town working this week.
Okay, and now when the Conservation Commission meetings meet, will you be available for those also?
Yes, I'm typically always in Revere.
Okay. And did you not know about this appointment, or did you apply for it? Or how did you become part?
Yes, I did apply. I was just notified about the appointment earlier today, so I wasn't aware that about this specific meeting. So I apologize for
You were
that.
notified today?
Yes.
I got your name on. Okay, this communications thing this is getting to be a mystery because I got this information last week. So, okay, all right. Any questions from the membership of the subcommittee? Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo my previous comments. I mean, if she found out this morning and is here today, thank you for making an attempt and for being here so we can at least talk to you and get to know you before you start this important work. And I'm sure Councilor Guanasso is going to ask you my next question, so I'll leave it to him to ask your background.
Councilor McKenna.
I'm going to ask the question, Counselor.
Go ahead.
So, Natalie, is it Nathalie or Natalie? Excuse me?
Natalie.
Natalie. So, Natalie, what is your background in
So
conservation?
My background is in public health and health sciences, and I've actually worked for the city of Chelsea for about 3 years, so I have a good background in municipal work overall.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the
Councilor
time
Rotundo.
to meet with us.
Any
Thank
other
you.
members of the subcommittee wishing to speak? Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to know if these people are confirmed this evening, are they going to be available ASAP so that we can get down to the business of electing a chairman of the Conservation Commission? Because currently we don't have one, and there seems to be a lack of communication to the residents in certain areas without the chairperson. So I would just like to have this done ASAP, and so we can get down to the protecting the people in the neighborhoods.
Well, I'm
Thank you.
sure that the people in the neighborhood of Riverside Ave are interested very much. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Natalie, thank you for showing up. I appreciate your attendance and, more importantly, your enthusiasm to help the community of Revere. I do have some questions as to knowledge relative to, as you said, that you worked in the city of Chelsea, and Tom Ambrosino being the current town manager, knowing him fairly well. What is your knowledge regarding the E&F process, Chapter 91, things of that nature?
I honestly don't have too much of a background. I'm more, willing and excited to learn, but I can't say that I have direct experience in this field.
That's a fair response, and I appreciate your forthright comments. That said, I thank you for answering them. And Mr. Chairman, as was reiterated by, I believe, several of the councilors, one of the things that I think that we need to have is a lawyer on this committee, on the Conservation Committee. I would obviously approve these two wonderful people, but I would ask the mayor that he forward an attorney, and more importantly, that attorney also have a clerk, considering the large-scale construction that is going to take place, the plethora of information that needs to be understood and digested regarding environmental permitting in the state of Massachusetts. So everything from area of critical concern, Chapter 91, E&F process, I can go through the list.
Okay, Councilor.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the city clerk now if she would just send a memo to the mayor saying that the appointment chair and its subcommittee would like to have a meeting with him in terms of what's going on, in very layman terms, what's going on with the Conservation Commission, why so many resignations, and what direction are we going with this body that's so important to our community. And we need that meeting as soon as possible so that we can get all the people in this community feeling secure that we have a learned source that's helping us in our conservation issues. Any other business before us? Seeing none, thank you for your attendance, and I thank those tuning in electronically. And again, in the future, it's a mandate that you appear at the City Council chamber. As all these folks have taken the opportunity to come here, all the City Council showed up, and the City Clerk, we expect the appointees to appear before us live also. Thank you. That concludes the Appointment Subcommittee meeting.